Hello, and welcome back to Next Gen, where together we are the next generation of media. I'm on the up and up, guys. I pay attention, so follow this channel. Anyways, so this is a big reason why. This is from. Let me just go ahead and notate this. June 18th, 2025. So well before we did anything. This is them in their parliament saying "Death to America" and how they want to use a nuke on U.S. And my word, what are they burning? Isn't that interesting? Yeah. And these dumbasses are so stupid they can't light paper on fire. It's laminated, you stupid shits. Anyways, we don't need to see that anymore. So, why is it a good thing? So, two big things to note is that China took nearly 90% of Iran's oil in 2023, like 90% of their exports. So what that does is it makes it very expensive and hard for them to wage any kind of war on anybody. So even like China has backed off on a lot of exporting their own oil and whatnot. They've been trying to get oil from different places since the way that oil is moved. They're trying to get it from different countries, even than Russia, because it's been very hard on them. So for those of you who played Risk, I think you can see exactly what Donald Trump's plan is here. He wants to completely neuter the Chinese military logistically. Like, if you can't wage a war, if you can't move, or if you can't afford to move, or if you don't have reserves in the back, because you know exactly like what happened now, it gets kind of hard to get oil during military actions. Okay, so here's another reason. Here is another very good reason. So this is an older one, by the way. So this is from September 30th, 2025. And this specific chart is very interesting. So this is Chinese, Russian, Iranian, and North Korean arms imports by source. And I just want to show you another good reason why. So this is China and where they get their arms for and where they've traded and gotten arms from in specific years. This is, of course, the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine, this dark shaded spot right here. And if you notice, this is Iran to Russia, Iran giving Russia a bunch of stuff during the start of, or during, well, not very much during the start, but in the middle up to kind of present day when this was written, anyways. Yeah, crazy. So he's interrupted their arms sharing in that. So I feel like that's a pretty good thing. If the what we view as the bad guys have less missiles to shoot at the good guys and the innocent people like they've been doing. Interesting. It's crazy that all these people keep, you know, saying how what he's doing is terrible and a genocide and blah 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 blah, and I really just can't stand to hear it anymore. But anyways, in another really big one, and I have another thing to show you and I'm going to pull it up, but this has the potential, and I'm not saying that it's going to for sure by any means, has the potential to turn an enemy into a neutral or even friendly nation, and that is huge because it's going to again completely neuter China and Russia's ability to wage any kind of war or to throw their weight around in any way if they don't have the logistical ability to move their military anywhere because they don't have the oil to do it or it's too expensive. So anyway, so this is the Atlantic Council. This is, again, before Donald Trump. So this is February 15th. So this is fairly recent, but is, again, before Donald Trump took these actions that he did. A unique moment to reshape the Middle East. Very smart. So it says Iran is the weakest point since 1979. Revolution after the recent protests. Of course it is. I would say that the protests were pretty dang close to overthrowing that regime by themselves, let alone exactly what we're doing now. Yeah, I know they're trying, like the IRGC is literally hiding in schools and hospitals and stuff. Amazing how Hezbollah is doing and the IRGC are doing exactly what Hamas did when Israel was in conflict with them. That's pretty crazy. Anyways, so the moral imperative. So current diplomatic efforts prioritize the nuclear issue while overlooking the regime's brutal crackdown on protests. So, you know, they kind of tried to call Donald Trump's bluff. He said, don't kill those protesters. And then ranging from over 6,000 to over 30,000 of them were killed in 2 days when they turned the internet off. So, Trump made a promise, and I think Trump's, he's a big loyalty guy, so I think he's going to keep it. The credibility dilemma, opting against military force may avoid immediate conflict, but risks comparisons to then U.S. Barack Obama's red line in Syria. In 2013, Obama failed to respond militarily after the Assad regime used chemical weapons on its people. I think it's pretty easy to say that none of us wants Donald Trump. Well, maybe not none of us. Some of these wackaloons on the left side might want us to resemble what Barack Obama did in 2013, but I certainly don't, so I'm glad that he's doing this. The economic stakes for the United States and China. A different Iranian regime could reintegrate. I apologize. Let me get a drink of water. A different Iranian regime could reintegrate its massive energy reserves. By the way, Iran's like the fourth highest, has like the fourth highest oil reserves, like crude oil reserves in the world. The world's second largest gas and third largest oil deposits. Obviously, we just captured the first one, and by the way, that seems to be, which is almost said Argentina. I apologize. Venezuela, I believe, is the highest oil reserves of all the countries on the face of the earth. And that has completely crippled Cuba, because the only economic growth they have is from sending Cuban military militias. So Cuban militias would go over and protect Maduro, because he couldn't trust any of his own people to do it. Isn't that funny? But anyway, so that seems to have crippled Cuba basically completely, to the fact that we're basically, it seems, I'm keeping my eye on it, but it seems like we're just gonna get Cuba. Just going to become ours. And I went over last week, so go watch that, why that's a good thing. It's the video with Donald Trump smoking a big Cuban cigar. It's wonderful. I wish we could bring Cuban cigars back to the pinnacle that they were before communism completely destroyed them. Because if you don't know, Cuban cigars aren't what you want anymore. You want cigars from Nicaragua and Honduras. Trust me. Okay, anyways. Skin in the game for the United States in Iran's future. So internal systemic failures brought about by the regime, namely hyperinflation, water scarcity, and widespread corruption, along with recent demonstrations, suggest the regime is in a state of terminal decline. So basically, this regime has talked about how they want to get a nuke so they can nuke us. They've screamed about it on their parliament floor, as I just showed you beginning of the segment. They want to destroy the West. They aren't shy about it. They're weak right now. Why attack them when they're strong? Why not systematically destroy them? Again, I went over last week how 25 years ago, what the difference is. Go watch that video. The difference between 25 years ago and today is astronomical, okay? Again, I said it in the last video, I'm not, in no way is that an indictment on the guys on the ground. We've always had the best guys on the ground, as we do now, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but I want to get to this last one, the ongoing threat of Iran's nuclear program, which I just highlighted. So, and of course we did U.S. strikes on it, and we tried to make deals with them, and one of the deals was, hey, we will give you all the civilian-grade uranium so that you can have unlimited free energy. We'll give it to you. And they said no. So really backed themselves into a corner, didn't they? Really showed their hand. And the worst part is when they showed their hand is they didn't realize that we were the ones feeding them the cards for all the years. We were giving them the cards, and then Donald Trump came in and he swapped the decks, and they showed us their hand, and we went, we're not playing with those cards anymore. Sorry. Anyways, we're going to move on to the next part, and the next part of this is the boots on the ground. A lot of people have been talking about this, the boots on the ground. I don't want boots on the ground in Iran. And I want to hedge all your thoughts on this, okay? I want to succinctly lay this out for you so that you understand. Most of these people are thinking, we're going to put maybe like a couple battalions of Rangers in and a bunch and just empty our army into there and whatnot. Like what we would see in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I don't think that's going to happen. I do not think that's going to happen. However, two things. First thing, Marco, I believe is it Pete Hegseth or Marco Rubio? Maybe it was Hegseth. I can't remember which one. I apologize. He said a reporter had asked him. It may have been someone from Tim Pool's team actually, which is kind of funny. But he asked him what the plans were, and one of them answered, "The fact that you think that I have to answer that is ridiculous," which is a good answer. I think it was someone from Tim Pool's team. I can't remember. I apologize, but it was really funny. It's like, yeah, of course. Why would they tell us exactly what they're going to do? Because the enemies can see it, right? If it's online and you can see it, they can see it, of course. So anytime that you hear like someone from the administration talking about boots on the ground there, just know that like there's this disinformation campaign that is certainly happening against Iran. They don't want we don't want them to know what the next move is. We want to completely have them thinking we're going to do the opposite, and then we do what we do, right? So there's this information campaign. So you while it's kind of sucked, you can't really trust what the administration is saying, and that's a good thing. I know that sounds terrible, but it's a good thing. Okay, so if Trump says, yeah, we're going to put groups on, our boots on the ground, he's probably going to hit them with some bombs again, right? So anyways, the second part to this is they could already be there, and my next segment is going to kind of show you what I mean by this. They could already be there, so we could have like ODF of, I believe it's called an ODF again. I was not in the military, but an ODF of Green Berets already in Iran, and their job, which I'm going to go over again in this next segment a little bit, is to kind of like direct strikes. So that they're combat effective or whatever, to help people on the ground who are fighting against them and kind of prop them up and give them a little bit of U.S. backing or whatever. Like what we did in Afghanistan and whatnot. We did that in Tora Bora, I believe, which I went over last week. Go watch that video. It's very good. Anyways, with that, again, I can't stress enough, like, boots could already be on the ground. And everything goes right, we won't hear about it. The special operations, the special ops operations, that sounds goofy. The stories that you hear are basically when something miraculous happens, like when we go get UBL, Osama bin Laden, that's what they called him, as UBL. When we go get him, you hear about that. Of course, you don't hear about all the details. Of course you don't. But you do hear about it. And so that's like when everything basically goes completely right. Like we did like have to blow up one of our own helicopters or whatever in his front yard or backyard because we crashed it, but that's beside the point. Or when they go really bad, like think of Lone Survivor, right? When they go really bad, you get to hear about these because they go really bad with, I believe it's Operation Red Wing. It's either Extortion 17 or Operation Red Wings. I don't remember. Anyways, yeah, they could be the same thing. I apologize, but that's when you hear about them. So if everything goes right and we do have boots on the ground, you're not going to hear about it. Maybe you hear about it in 30 years. It gets declassified, or in 10 years, maybe a book is written about it or something. I don't know. Usually those guys are pretty professional and they're silent about it, especially like if there's Delta guys in there, you're likely not going to hear about it because not a lot of Delta guys go out and write books. So just have that in mind, please. Don't be, if you do hear that, like, let's say something miraculous happens and in a month or 2 months we hear that there was an ODF in there, don't freak out, okay? Especially if like it's nothing like it's not a catastrophe or whatever. You be reasonable, okay? If we are able to, like I said earlier, if we're able to swap this regime and completely take them out so that they're replaced by even a neutral actor on the global stage, it's a huge win. Huge win. I just logistically speaking, for both China and Russia, I mean BRICS, if you want to call it, which BRICS is a joke anyways, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and there's like other ones in there. I don't remember all of them, but Iran is one of them. Just keep that in mind, please. Please don't go crazy if you hear something. So we're going to go ahead and jump on. If you enjoyed this clip and you want the full version, go to my bio and subscribe to Next Gen. Together, we are the next generation of media. Thank you, and I'll catch you in the next one.